First, the withdrawal from the grain agreement and now the retreat from Kherson, the only regional center that the Russian invaders managed to temporarily occupy during 8 months of a full-scale war. Both the first and the second steps are a signal of Russia's weakness, political scientists say.
At first, Russia pointedly withdrew from the grain treaty, began to deeply criticize it, and then, 4 days later, having essentially received nothing in return, was forced to return in it, to some extent making itself a laughingstock both domestic and international market. And this also speaks of the weakness of the Federation.
According to some experts, the hasty retreat of the Russian occupiers from the south of Ukraine is not only a military necessity, but also a demonstration to the West that Russia has made another so-called goodwill gesture and is supposedly ready for negotiations. The office of the President of Ukraine does not believe in any of it.
Russia's attempt to bargain for fake negotiations, but in reality to fix ultimatum demands. It is either a way to register at least some territorial acquisitions or a way to get an operational pause for several months in order to regroup, train the mobilized men and continue attacking our territories, or delay the inevitable and delay the defeat in the war, trying to keep on, play this or that blackmail. Mikhailo Podolyak, advisor to the head of the office of the President of Ukraine.
The other day, President Volodymyr Zelensky once again reminded on what terms negotiations with Russia are possible.
Once again, the restoration of territorial integrity, respect for the UN Charter, compensation for all damages caused by the war, the punishment of every war criminal, and guarantees that this will not happen again. These are absolutely understandable terms.
However, Russia is not yet ready to agree on these terms. According to political analysts, the Kremlin does not lose hope of repeating what happened to Georgia in Ukraine.
Russia now really wants negotiations, but we must understand that their negotiations are a desire to follow the war path in Georgia that they took in 2008. There was a clear scenario: Russian aggression. When the West intervenes and acts as a peacemaker, Russia agrees to peace, but seizes part of the territory of Georgia, while Georgia retains its independence.
For the first time, the Ukrainian and Russian sides spoke about peace back in March in Istanbul. Then the participants agreed on the approximate content of the two documents. The first of them assumed that Ukraine would agree to a neutral status and refuse to place foreign bases on its territory, but in return would receive security guarantees from the West. The second document dealt with mutual respect for cultures, which included, among other things, the language issue. Immediately after the end of the negotiations, the Russian army left the Kyiv and Chernihiv regions, and Ukraine found out about the atrocities of the Russian invaders in these territories. The negotiation process has completely stalled, although even after that, President Zelensky repeatedly stated that he was ready for direct negotiations with Putin.
I am ready for direct negotiations, if the serious issue is the end of the war and not just blah blah blah. I do not change my position, because I believe that in the Russian Federation there is no one to talk to except this one person, and we have a war specifically with the Russian Federation.
Now there are no prerequisites for the Zelensky-Putin meeting. Moreover, political analysts are sure that Putin would like to persuade not officially Kyiv, but the West to negotiate. He would like to get personal security guarantees and make sure that he is not in danger.
Russia wants to bargain with the United States on a global level and not only on the topic of Ukraine or the war, but generally. It wants to be given guarantees of Russia's security, although in reality these are guarantees of Putin's security himself. The Russian authorities want to be convinced that Russia will never be democratic, that the West will not do anything to protect human rights in Russia and will turn a blind eye to all the crimes of the Russian regime.
According to sources close to the Kremlin, cited by the banned Meduza opposition publication, Putin's negotiating positions have not changed since the beginning of the war. He is sure that the Ukrainian authorities should at least recognize Donbass and Crimea as Russian. Ukraine in this war, as they say in the office of the President of Ukraine, intends to restore its borders from 1991, when it gained independence. Reported by Diana Kolesnik, Faina Vasilenko, UATV News.